with Bill Plunkett of the Orange County Register. He covers the Dodgers. Hey, Bill, how you doing?
I'm a little depressed after listening.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, talk to us about a good team, Bill. Talk to us about how do the Dodgers look in spring training?
That's the best opening line we've ever had from anybody.
Welcome to our world.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to revive myself.
Yeah, well, Bill, we got to go back only 2 or 3 years in the Dodgers with that ownership there and with what was going on there.
Yeah.
That suddenly turned around in a hurry. Magic Johnson rides to the rescue with
Stan
a lot
Kasten,
of friends of his.
yeah.
Yeah,
So how do the Dodgers look?
$2 billion can do.
Do they look like in spring training? Do the Dodgers look like a team with a $270 million payroll?
It's amazing, and this is the third year in a row we've had these crazy payrolls. It's amazing what $275 million does not buy. There are still plenty of questions. I mean, it's. I was just writing up kind of a spring training wrap up, and looking back to what I wrote as far as the questions they had to answer when they got here, and they didn't really answer them. There's still a lot to sort out in that bullpen. There's still reasons to cross their fingers about the health of their starting rotation. They're still rolling the dice on a rookie in center field and all of that. I still think they're the class of the division. Don't get me wrong, but that bullpen is not sorted out. It really isn't. They still have to worry about Hyun-Jin Roo's shoulder and things like that in the starting rotation.
Yeah, and you got to worry about Jimmy Rollins. How much is left in the tank there? You get Ethier in the outfield that really don't even have a place for. They're trying to figure that out. It's almost like the Matt Kemp situation of a year ago in the sense that...
No, big difference there. Matt Kemp could still play. He was a valuable guy that they were, was going to be in the lineup. They have no use for Andre Ethier, and he's a guy in decline for a few years now. So he is just
hard to get rid of that contract though. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't. You really don't. And the only way he's getting at bats this year is if somebody gets hurt or as a left-handed pinch hitter off the bench. And $16 million a year is a lot to pay for that.
Yeah.
Bill, you talked about there still being holes despite the $275 million payroll. It's amazing they can't fill out a rotation right now. And I know a lot of that has to do with the fact that Rue is not healthy and not with the team right now. But what about Brett Anderson, who spent one injury-filled season here with the Rockies? Rockies gave up on him. How's he throwing for the Dodgers?
Oh, he's looked terrific. And you guys know that. When he's on the mound, he's a very good pitcher. It's just staying there. And that's the gamble that they're taking at the back of the rotation. And the other day, he went 6 innings and didn't give up a single fly ball. And if I remember, my numbers are right, I think he's given up 1 fly ball all spring, and that was a home run by Albert Pujols. And that's what he does. And that was a lot of the plan this offseason with this new front office was to get a defense that matched the starting pitching. And they've got a lot of ground ball guys, and they upgraded the defense on the infield. So that should match up real well. But yeah, they took a risk on Brett. They took a risk on Brandon McCarthy, who has a checkered past injury wise. But when you go on the free agent market for starting pitching, everything beyond Max Scherzer and John Lester this year was a gamble. So they took their 2 gambles, and they think they made their wise risks, I guess you could say.
Before we take a bigger look at the division and why the Dodgers are so favored and what happened with the Giants and how the Padres have tried to improve themselves, I have to mention there's a guy at third base for the Dodgers that you can't. He's like a vampire. You can't kill him. You can't get him to die.
And people forget he was here for a while.
He was a shortstop for the Rockies at one
Yeah.
time in his career, and he doesn't look like a shortstop anymore. But no matter what they do at third base, they keep coming back to the same guy.
Jose Uribe.
Yeah. Vampire. We're not sure about his age, just like you're not sure with vampires either. Yeah, I think we might be seeing the tail end here. You're right. He had a great year last year, and the last 2 years
Yeah.
he's just kind of been reborn. And defensively, he just has amazing hands. I mean, he's not like Pablo Sandoval. He's not in the best shape, but his hands are fantastic. The question is at this age, whatever it is, how often he can stay in the lineup. And the hamstrings were a problem last year. Who knows this year? He has not looked good this spring, to be honest with you. He's really not hit a lick in Cactus League, whatever that means. But they've got a guy on the bench, Justin Turner, who had a fantastic year in a reserve role last year, has looked great this year. And they've got another guy, this Cuban that they signed, Hector Oliveira, who is probably going to be the answer next year. So they just have to get through this year with Uribe and Turner and maybe Alex Guerrero in there a little bit, and then kind of hand it over to the other Cuban next year.
Yeah, Bill, I watched the Dodgers on the MLB Network a couple of nights ago, and I saw they took a shot of Uribe at third base, and I couldn't believe how big he was. I think if you put a few ropes on him, you could run him through the Thanksgiving Day parade, actually. Hey, Yasiel Puig in right field. So good, so phenomenal the first half of the season, and much more pedestrian the second half. He's a very intriguing guy. The Cuban thing, the whole story, the phenomenal five-tool player. Who's the real Yasiel Puig? What are we going to see this year from him?
Who knows?
That was the question I was asking everybody the last couple of days, doing a story on that. Because during the offseason, Mark McGwire said he thinks Yasiel Puig is ready to win MVP.
Whoa.
And the guy that played in May and July last year was an MVP level player. The guy who played in April, June, and September, and then disappeared in the playoffs is no MVP. So yeah, it's all about consistency with him and McGwire. And Jimmy Rollins has been a good influence on him in spring, and they're all preaching to him, stroking that ego on the one hand, saying, "Boy, you can be an MVP level player," and then kind of on the other hand, reminding him that in order to do that, you got to come to show up to play every day. And it's a 6-month season; it's not a 2-month season. I think he's learning that. I mean, you got to remember how inexperienced he was when he got to the big leagues. I mean, he had. He was 21 years old, and he had about 250 minor league at-bats when he was called up. Last year was his first full season as a professional anywhere. So all of the learning curve is going on the major league stage, right in front of the cameras. So that is going to be a huge, huge storyline with this team this year. I think you're going to see a more consistent Puig. I think you have to see a more consistent Puig if this team is going to be as good as they think they can be.
I mentioned the Padres went to the Dodgers for some of their people. You mentioned Kemp earlier, and the Giants just amazed me that they didn't do anything positive, it seemed, from my standpoint, during the offseason, but they lost people. And the Rockies and the Diamondbacks are just what they always are. I mean, where's the fiercest competition for the Dodgers going to come from within the division?
Yeah, I agree with you on all of that. I know a lot of people really jumped on the Padres bandwagon after all their moves, but I see a really bad defense.
Oh, yeah.
I see some injury vulnerability, Kemp especially. I don't see a team that's going to suddenly jump up and be a division contender. And the Giants, well, they only win every other year anyway. So this is the down year. They can win again next year when even number year. I think the Dodgers are clearly the class of division. The question becomes in October where things go from there.
Hey, Bill, we really appreciate your time, and we'll see you when the Dodgers come to town first thing.